G'day, good evening. Thanks for listening or watching. This is an agricultural and horticultural show, and the information provided is fact-checked, and the links and websites, papers that have been gone through will be put in the description below, because this stream is for educational and scientific purposes. So it can be relied on in that sense. So you can go through everything later that's been discussed. And today, I think we're going to be into week 9 of that soil fertility university course that I did. Going through the slides again. Unless someone jumps in pretty soon and asks some questions, we can take the stream in a different direction. So we'll see how it's going to go. We've got 60 seconds to decide. Wait for the cool folk to arrive, like Genetic Memory Farms, which says, "Good evening, Aussie. I hope you're well, sir." I'm all right, thank you, mate. I hope you're well too. Not shoveling too much snow this week. But quite happy the way the stream's been going lately. I'd like to see some feedback. I probably should ask that a bit later when there's more than 3 people watching. But it'd be good to see, because this week, this soil science only goes for 12 weeks. And there's many other classes that I've done, so we could go through other ones, because it gives a bit of direction to the show. Otherwise, when there's no real questions and discussion topics, it's hard for me to make a start. So what do you think? Do you think it should be, because I've changed the stream a little bit. It used to be done heavy research into all of the medical side of things, and that didn't go well, so I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm getting into that agricultural and horticultural side of it, with the plant science, soil science, and microbiology. Even thinking about changing the stream, my YouTube name. Still leave it there as Aussie CC, but maybe put the agricultural and horticultural, or plant science, soil science, and microbiology, something like that up. I'd like to know what you think. It's past 2 minutes now. It's 2.5 minutes. So let's get into it. Righto. You probably hear the wind in the background. It's very windy. Last week was awesome on organic manures. Had a few questions come through on that. It was very enjoyable. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And this week is on slow-release fertilizer and biofertilizer. I can't wait to get the biofertilizer bit. The slow-release, there's only one thing you're really going to know about slow-release fertilizers. So today's stream is going to be heavily on Bio-Ferts, I reckon, after we go through all of these slides. But I'll be skipping through a few because they're on slow-release fertilizer, and we don't need to know much about that, because there's only one thing you really need to know. And it's the size of it. So that's it. So we'll see how it goes, see what all these slides are on about. Hope I'm coming through loud and clear. I'll just make sure on that. Testing. Yes, I am. Very good. Oh, yeah, there's a few. Oh, yeah, Lene. Hello, Lene. Nice to see you. Genetic Memory Farm says, "I will throw a soil fertility question at you. I have been recycling soil for about a decade. Any thoughts on if you need to add amendments when every recycle? Should I get a soil test?" Ah, that's a great question. Well, if it was me, because there's many different ways to cycle nutrients, you know that, but depends what speed you want to do it at, and you've got time. So if I was in your situation, I'd have 3 piles. So one pile number 1 would be, say, the one that's already finished 3 years and it's ready to go out in the field. Pile 2 will be, well, in the middle, and the pile 1 will be what you're adding to. So possibly for 1 year, you could add to it, to pile 1, and then you'd go and start another pile. And that's how you'd make your pile from number 1, 2, and 3. And that gives it a 3-year cycle, because you've got to allow the heat to get into it. I know it's cold where you are, so you've got to give it at least 1 year minimum to allow that thermophilic process to happen, to kill all the seeds and pathogens. So it's a lot better and usable product in the end. And, well, it depends. Should you get a soil test? Well, the plants are essential for 17 essential nutrients, a few beneficials. And how do you know if they're in the substrate? Well, you've got to look at what you put in there. Do you put in good green leafy massive leaves, for instance, like comfrey leaves or banana leaves, but big massive leaves that are going to be nutritious and have these elements inside of them? Because remember, NPK, Cal, Mag, Sulfur, they're the primaries, and of them, nitrogen's 1.5% is the most, and then it goes down to sulfur, which is 0.2%. So it's 0.2%. So in the leaf material that you've got, your green manure, it's called, you should be able to get enough sulfur, for instance, out of those green leaves. So it depends on what inputs you put in. So you could go and make sure that you've covered those essential elements by keeping it green and putting the green, tossing it under the soil. So that maintains nitrogen, maybe magnesium because of the atom structure. And should I get a soil test? Well, I would only get a soil test if your pH is not rising, if it's not doing the right thing, because you're struggling to think, what am I doing? Is there too much aluminium in here? I haven't got enough organic matter? What's the go? So I hope that's a brief discussion, a brief thing on it. And I was actually looking, we were talking last week, GMF, about the carbon to nitrogen ratio, and that was gone through in the nitrogen one, in the first one, because I was looking for some slides for another question, and I saw them. I thought, oh, wow, that's where it is. It wasn't put in. So if you really want to know the full-on detail, you could go back and look at that talk a few weeks ago. Soil, no, high. GMF says, good idea. I should start dating my soil totes so I can see how long they have been cycled. I use to chop up roots, stems, leaves, alfalfa, barley, and for brewing for nitrogen, for green nitrogen, for a green manure. Well, in that too, that's got all other essential elements that the plant needs. So if it breaks down and can compost the way that it should be, taking its time, where you don't put too much green and don't put too much brown in, and it'll take a year to cycle, you should be right, mate, I reckon. That's a guess. By putting a lot of different things in there, a lot of different weeds, different plants, different, because they will suck up and use little bits of elements that other plants won't use. There could be different microbes inside of different ones as well, which is really going to be beneficial for your breakdown later on. If the process is going too slow, you can always put a microbe like, because this is going to be a microbe topic, like Bacillus pumilus, which is puts out an enzyme called cellulase, which breaks down plant material. Because, the cell walls is how it is cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, a little bit of pectin. So if you can get some microbes that have those enzymes, digestive enzymes, it'll also speed up the process and help you get your essential elements out. Hope that helps, mate. Should we drive into today's biofertilizer topic? I think we should. I feel a bit weird, like I've left you a bit hanging, like you want to know more. Well, if you do, put the thingo in the chat, put a comments in the chat, and I can help you out a bit more if I didn't touch on the section that you wanted to be touched on for your question. So I presume that was a good amount. All right, slow release fertilizers, what's going to happen here? And biofertilizers, which is the go. Yeah, look at the amount of fertilizer usage in the world. Australia is mega high, like one of the highest. It's putrid. Same as other planets, developed nations. It's really sad. Undeveloped ones are actually treating the earth pretty good. All right, next to it. Total, we all know about the fertilizer consumption. It's going up and it's bad. That's why I try and do the opposite. And it's all about organics. So the way forward will be sustainable for our soils and our earth and everything around it. Everything cycles well. There's trees, there's birds, there's everything. What's this say? Research, innovation, marketing of water-soluble fortifiers. These are different fertilizers, okay? But I'm interested in the last ones. Organic fertilizers, microbial, bacterial inoculants, soil amendments, additives, and nano-fertilizers. Wow, this last one is amazing. I did a whole 12-week course just on that. Next. The idea of fertilizer, down the bottom, the nutrient release is synchronized, okay, with what the crop needs. Yes, well, as you know, this course goes extremely heavily into detail. So you can get your fertilizer. Actually, do you want me to explain that? No. Remedial measures. Nitrogen fertilizer during plant growth in several split applications. So there's different growth stages in plants. And if you can time your fertilizer right, your organic fertilizer right, at the right times, you're going to have no deficiency, or the growth and development's not going to be hindered. That's what this is really going on about. And so you can go on top dress, for instance, being organic at different stages, or you can have your, maybe your biofertilizer, you can have that in check. So you can use some nitrogen fixing bacteria, which would do the pretty similar thing. So they're the organic approaches that I'm not into synthetic industrial. The utilization of different applied mineral fertilizers. See, that's not about that. I'm about the next one, which is microbial, nitrification, denitrification, mobilization. Any surplus of plant nutrients in the soil not taken up by plants can undergo 3 types of processes: microbial, chemical, or physical reactions. Oh, okay. This is pretty all right. Talk about, see this one at the top here. This is generally the amount of nitrogen that's gone out of your substrate in the first year. 50 to 60% of nitrogen. Only 10 to 25% is gone, or an average of 15 in the first year. Then a further 1 to 2% per year will be taken up by the following decades. That's all of P, of the phosphorus. And potassium, half of that's used in the first year. So nitrogen and potassium, they are used up in the first year. Or it's only a half of it. But look at the amount, especially if you've got more microbes in your soil, if you try and promote them, there'll be a lot more of them because the phosphorus is held up in their DNAs. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it? So to try and get that out and successful, there's a few really good organic ways where you can maintain these figures to keep the same. So each year it's just sustainable. You don't have to add any types of mineral fertilizer. And it gets easier as the years go on because the microbes will help you more so. Drawbacks of split applications. An ideal fertilizer should have a minimum of 3 following characteristics. A single application should supply enough nutrients throughout the entire growing season to meet the plant's demand for optimum growth. Second point, a maximum percentage recovery to achieve the most significant return for the cost of the input. And third, minimum detrimental effects on the soil, water, and atmosphere, because it's got to be sustainable. So that last one is only really organics, because if you go on mineral fertilizer, it's pretty hard because you're going to get leaching, volatilization, all types of other effects. So this stems back to organics. So a single, I'm not going to repeat it, there's quite a few to go through. Slow release fertilizer is a class of fertilizers whose fundamental role is to release nutrients into the soil for a more extended period so that the nutrient availability for absorption by plants is sustainably prolonged. They release their nutrient contents at more gradual rates that permit maximum uptake and utilization of nutrients while minimizing loss due to leaching, volatilization, and excessive growth. How they do that is the size of it. You can also get organic slow release fertilizer, which is in the form of pellets. So with that, you keep your pellets big if you want them to last a longer time. And Or if you want the process to happen faster, you just make it small, get smaller ones or powder it. I think that covers really the whole thing. Just about. What's that cool looking like? Pictures, graphics. Can't see, it's all blurry. Slow release fertilizers. Well, we can get them, but now that they coat them also with different resins and thermoplastics that have benefits in them. They might put inoculants into them too. Definitions of slow and controlled release fertilizers and stabilized nitrogen fertilizers. No. Slow and controlled fertilizers. What's this? Release? The transformation, the characteristics of slow and controlled release fertilizers. Release: the transformation of a chemical substance into a plant available form, or slow release, the release rate of which the nutrient might come out. Declaration: a fertilizer may be described as slow release if the nutrient or nutrients declared as slow release meet under defined conditions at 25 Celsius or 75 F, each of the following criteria: not more than 15% released in 24 hours, not more than 75% released in 28 days, and at least 75% released in the stature of release time. That's what you want if you're going to make some yourself, because you can get a pellet machine and you can process your organic matter into it and put it into pellets yourself. You can make them harder or to make the rates match these numbers. So you can make the pellets bigger, or you can make them also harder to get this desired effect. And also, I'm not going to go into much detail. No. Definition between slow release and controlled release. Well, controlled release is the factors determining the rate pattern and duration of nutrient releases, as well as known and controllable. Whereas slow release is the release of nutrients at a slower rate than usual. How polymer-coated ferts work. What's that saying? Got the NPK, they coat it. It's bound with ammonium and nitrate, H2PO4 potassium, and there's potassium and the phosphorus. Oh, that didn't really say much. That's what I really wanted. So you can coat them in anything these days. Just got to get it to adhere. Microbes is what I support. Like you might get legumes which are blue, which is one I use, and that blue is the rhizobium microbes. Fertilizer use efficiency. In the intensive systems, there are possibilities to build up negative balance and deficiency of secondary nutrients and micronutrients especially. So balanced fertilization is important. This approach is also likely to boost crop yield and arrest declined soil fertility in the long run in the eco-friendly manner. Customized fertilizer. Well, you can customize it, but if you're into organics, it's going to take a few years maybe till you transition out of your mineral fertilizers. So you might see a problem in those stages. So that's when you might want to think about custom fertilizers, but that's by putting different elements in to correct imbalances in the soil after your soil test. And by cutting the grass or cutting your weeds and leaving them there and doing it once a month in your growing season. So you might only have to do it 6 times or say 10 times, if you have good rains and etc. in the tropics. And do that over even 12 months, and you'll see after a 12-month period that pretty much everything cycles well. And then you can go and start from there if there's a big imbalance. That's a good way just to leave a field. If you're thinking, how am I going to transition out? Just only cut the grass. Just cut it before it seeds. If you've got good grass, you might want to let it seed and then cut it. Customized fertilizers. Objective of customized fertilizers. Customised fertiliser best management practices. Qualities of customised fertiliser. Why do you need customised fertiliser? I've kind of gone into that a bit. Farmers prefer customised fertiliser. Yeah, they're the farmers that are use of intensive cropping, that are used to really raping the land and not feeding it. So with organics, you'll be feeding it, you'll be putting different organic matter, green manure, brown manure, back at different stages. And then you'll be also growing a cover crop out of the seasons to till that in or slash that in to cover this imbalances. So if you do organics correctly, you shouldn't need to do anything like this, and or any of the mineral-based techniques or synthetic techniques. Methods of customizing fertilizer, bulk blending. This is how they make it, customized. All right. How to decide the best customized fertilizer. Some examples. Well, how the farmers do it. You put a soil test out and it'll tell you, I'm depleted in this. And then you'll go, should I put an example here? Let me just have a look. Oh, I do. I'll just have a look for you. See if there's anything being written. Let's see what's written first. See what's been going on. I think he's still kicking. GMF says, you got me thinking, Aussie, thanks. That was very helpful. All right, Brad, nice to hear, mate. Okay. GMF says, I top dress and bottom dress with alfalfa, barley, crab meal, chicken guano, and bone meal, a little blood meal as well as the bottom. When I recycle a batch, I add green sand, humic, oyster shell. You might be going over the top, mate. As long as your pH is good, that's a lot of amendments that you have to do you can nearly substitute a lot of those things by organic matter and getting it green when you put it underneath. Like, for instance, grass clippings is fantastic. You've saved that, put it in a pile, and the stuff in the middle, all the nitrogen can't get escaped. So it's just going to be stored, immobilized. But yeah, you've got all the right things. You just need to cycle them all now and get them all processing. And then have that dark, rich, remember the Munsell's soil chart where it shows you the colour. So the darker the colour, the better. But that's not when it's wet. That's when it's moist. So you can do, and the lighter it is, the more organic matter you'll need. Hope that helps, mate. Oh, yep, you got a lime. Hello, 420 Fred. Righto, second half of this talk. Oh no, that's right. I was going to get you the. Or I'll try and load one of them up. Righto, I can share this. It's not on the right one. I'm just pulling it up. Bear with me. No, feeding. There we go. All done. Ready to share screen now. So an example of these customized fertilizers that they talk about is a soil analysis report where it shows the for instance, the chloride is low, so it's below the amount you got. So for their soil suggestion, they make up an amount of milligrams per kilo that you can put into a hectare that's going to rectify this problem. So there's all sorts down here. Here you go, ammonium, nitrogen, and sulfur. So by doing a soil test, this is a soil test, it'd come up with these results, and you go, all right, this is what I'm low in: chloride, ammonium, nitrogen, or sulfur. So what I would do, or what I'd say to this farmer, is you get your sulfur-releasing bacteria, and you make sure you got your green manure, and you till it in. So that's going to rectify your sulfur in about 12 months, or you do another periodic tests at 6 months at the start of the season, grow season, the end of the grow season. And nitrogen will be fixed by biofertilizers, azos, for instance. Azospirillum lipifolium is a brilliant nitrogen-producing bacteria. That one in particular can produce 80% of a sugar cane's growth and development requirements for its whole cycle, that one microbe, put in at the right rate. So there's an example of, that's something, cation exchange, don't need to go through anything else. Yeah, that's all I want to show you on that bit. No, what I'm up to now. So if that's to do how they do the customized fertilizers, so you can rectify, you can fix that by all your organics just by cycling out of, well, I'm not going to repeat it. Effects of customized fertilizers, well, you'd slowly see things get back to stable. And then, for instance, if you're wanting, that'll do. These are just some experiments that they've done just to prove what is said is correct. Leaf chlorophyll and mulberries. That's pretty cool, eh? Here we go. Bio-release smart micronutrients. Can you believe that? They've got smart fertilizers now? Yes, they have. It's a new category. The molecules are designed so that the nutrient release is governed by organic acids secreted by the exudates in plants and microbes. How rad is that? So they've made different chemicals inside of them that react with, say, hydronase, for instance, which is what puts out by the exudates in the plant's roots, and that will break it down so that it's required at the right time. How cool is that? These fertilizers effectively act as a store from which crops can extract nutrients as and when they need it. They mimic the natural form of nutrients in soils. Nutrient release is under control of the plant itself. How brilliant. Bio-release smart fertilizer. Phosphoric acid with micronutrient source. It's a base nutrient. There's a smidgen way to do it. There's different ways that you can coat them, with polymer coated, zeolite coated, gel based, glass coated, and oxide coated. Nutrient markets, different topics, and applicability, how easy it is to apply. So they're for all different areas. In the novel micronutrient formulations, conventional micronutrient products sometimes lead up to losses of money and an unnecessary buildup of metals in the soil. They also lead to widespread heavy metal toxicity and contamination for the plant and microbes in the soil. So novel micronutrient formulations are aimed to improving nutrient efficiency factors. Very good. Acidic metabolites exudated in root zone chelate with zinc from polyphosphate chain to make it easily available. Okay, this is going to go into heavy detail. I'll skip this. You're welcome to pause it and read it. There's some pretty cool stuff. Nanosilica helps easier penetration through leaf cuticles on foliar spray. Isn't that interesting? So it could act as a wetting agent, or you could just use nanoparticles. Zinc oxide nanoparticles have been tested in the lab as a bactericide and fungicide, such as Streptococcus aureus, Bacillus subtilis, and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Isn't that amazing? So if you use zinc oxide nanoparticles, it can get rid of Bacillus subtilis, which is very beneficial. Some Pseudomonas are very beneficial. Streptococcus is not for plant growth development. Just an example of using the right input. So you can put too much in of the right thing, and it's going to stuff things up. So by adding too many inputs, you might have some little zinc oxide nanoparticles and going, why isn't my microbes thriving? Well, it's just from that one little input. It could be, that'll do. Plant growth promoter as biostimulants. Enhance growth crops. I should have started here at the start. Did the last one, because this is way, way more important than slow release fertilizer. Plant growth promoter as biostimulants. So enhance crop growth, improve nutrient availability, and encourage soil microbial activity. Growth promoters boost the all-round development of crops by regulating their metabolic activities from the roots to the leaves. Natural GPs include predominantly seaweed extracts, organic acids, growth hormones, enzymes, amino acids, humic and fulvic acid, and beneficial microbes. Fortified fertilizers, I don't really want to go through this, but what they are, they're a specifically designed mixed fertilizer to which another fertilizer compound containing plant nutrients is deliberately added to enhance the nutrient value of the fertilizer. So you just add mineralized fertilizers. That's what that soil company would have done as well. They would be into fortified fertilizers. A lot of chelation going on there. Water-soluble fertilizers are extremely convenient to use as they are pre-mixed with salts and can be simply sprayed on plants. Water-soluble fertilizers are used in sprinklers or drip systems and foliar sprays to increase yields and improve quality. Water-soluble fertilizer, they can also be, when you get your microbes, they should be water-soluble. So, for instance, there's one called, should I say it, rootroids. It's not water-soluble. They've gone and added some humic and organic properties which could clog up, because they could have calcium chloride and stuff like that in their mineral composition, and they're going to clog up your fertilizers. So not all of them are right. They should be written on if they're water-soluble. Mine are, the ones I use, they're water-soluble, so I can just tip them in and they just vanish. No residue at the bottom, no need to stir. Biofertilizers. Benefits of foliar fertilization: high resistance to disease and impacts, improved drought tolerance, improved soil salinity, high resistance to physiological disorders, rapid utilization of applied nutrients, and therefore rapid correction of observed deficiencies. So it's really for stresses. You can pick stresses and to alleviate deficiencies. Water-soluble mixture of fertilizer. I'm not going to go through these because they're talking about mineralized. Why DBT in fertilizer? Fertilizer sale to farmers through point of sale. Isn't it interesting, eh? I study in India, so they show you the new age ways of doing technology, and they show you the old ways. So this is the new age way. This class was written 2 years ago. No, 2022. Technology is a bit slower there. They still talk about. Can I say that? No, I better not. Evaluation studies and feedback. It's real bad. Reduction to illegal. Okay, let's get into the biofertilizers. You're kidding. Essential commodities. Fertilizer Control Act, no. Recommendation of manufacturers, no. It's organic approaches. quick detection of adulterants. This is pretty important. Adulterants in soil, in fertilizers. So you can get that machine that it's about $1,000 to pelletize organic matter, and that just puts it in pellet form. So before you pelletize it, they'll go and put sand in it and other things that may increase the weight, but they're very cheap and they can just basically get money out of. But some of them, like if they use sand, they might scrape it off the ground, but that might have other contaminants and trace elements, poisons and things in it. So you've really, really got to be careful of adulteration of fertilizers. So you're going to know where your source is sourcing their inputs from, which is quite hard some days because most people lie. So that's why organics is the go. You can really know what your inputs, because they're mostly from your area. There are simple tests to indicate the genuineness of fertilizers. You can put it in cups and see what's in the bottom. So that's all the heavy metals, the sands and all that sort of things will go to the bottom, but they shouldn't. You can see if there's floating oil slicks on the top of it, which will tell you that it's not a clean based source that they have. They've used fuels and oils mixed in with it. It's pretty much, and then the smell, of course, it should, well, it's hard to say because chemicals smell, it's different stages. Major objectives, so I wouldn't go on the smell. Major problems. Following fertilizers have been identified for adulteration. Well, it's really any that humans touch. It's terrible this day and age. There are enforcement ages. Weakness in quality control, because no one checks it. No one really knows about the difference. They'll just go and use it and assume that they've got a deficiency of something in their paddock, or something's died because of their practices, not because of their input practices, their input sourcing practices. Sorry. Is that it? Oh, fair income. Well, that's the end of this week's. We'll see if there's anything being written. Oh, I'll stop sharing, I'm supposed to do. Holy mackerel. GMF says, those amendments are just stuff I get super cheap or free or already have laying around. $3.50 for 50 pounds or 25 kilos of powdered lime, free barley and alfalfa, etc. $3.50 for 20 kilos. That's all right. I get, it's 200 kilos for a ton of my lime. And that's, what's that, 2,200 pounds for $200. So 220 pounds is $20, buying it bulk. So yeah, you're getting it very, very cheaply. And as long as you know what the source, because I had to check out my sources and I contacted where it came from to make sure that they were organically doing it as well. And they were. And try and look out, instead of lime, get dolomite, because dolomite has magnesium in it, not just calcium, because the lime's, I think, 96% calcium chloride, where the dolomite's got 20% magnesium in it. So it's something to think about. A lot of people, well, my agricultural people here, they had to source, had to get onto their reps to get dolomite for me. I just couldn't believe other farmers don't use it. But anyway, organics is new in Australia, so I've been told. That's what I've fair income been told by an agricultural shop. 40 minutes. All right, what else can we... It's supposed to be biofertilizers. Well, I'm sure I can add to that. Let's talk about some biofertilizers. Actually, I'll go and pull it up first. Microbes. Maybe next week's on biofertilizers. Here's my collection. These are what secrets are, who cares? Oh, what GMF said before I go, that's a good deal. The lime's locally sourced. We have quarries near me. Yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure that they're doing it, their practices are good too, because there could be redneck practices, mate, where they they're just, because people these days, they're really happy just to get a sale, and they're not very many are organically minded, and so they'll just get the product out there however quickly and profitably they can, and sometimes it doesn't meet organic standards. So that's why I got onto the one I did, and they're all good. What's this another? He says, "Hell yeah, digging your show, Aussie." Oh, thank you for the nice information and nice words, mate. I needed some science to get my brain going. Oh, good. You're welcome. Well, I should nearly. It was on biofertilizers today, so I will continue a bit with that, I suppose. I'd like to nearly answer your question now for you about your CN ratio. Anyway, these are some biofertilizers. So, for instance, all know Bacillus subtilis. So Bacillus subtilis is really good for indole acid, cytokinins. It does solubilize phosphorus as well. It produces fungicide and urease, so it can break down urea produced by microbes. And it reduces steel metal corrosion, believe it or not. These are all the different papers I got. And it's a endophyte, so it doesn't live inside of it. It only lives outside. These are some papers that I got. So on all of these microbes that I use, I've gone through and done some decent research on them all to see why I should use them and how I should use them. And Azotobacter coccorum, for instance, it can fix 20 kilos of nitrogen, 20 kilos or 50 pounds of nitrogen per hectare per year. One microbe that you need to see under the microscope. So you'd have to get that at a good colony forming units ratio. So you want it at least maybe 100 million or a billion colony forming units. And then you go, and it's water soluble. So you go and mix it up. I put 2 grams per 10 litres. And then you go and broadcast it. So if you put it through your drip system, or you might want to put it in a sprayer, you can foliar spray if you know that the microbes are going to work on the outside or possibly get into the plant through the dermal tissue and other pores, different ways that the plant can allow inputs to come through its phyllosphere, through its leaves and region. What's the other one? Pain bacillus. Glucosidobacter diazotrophilos is the one that can supply 80% of the nitrogen for a sugarcane's growth cycle. 80%. 80. Isn't that a flame and spin out? Another good one, so your azospirillum I brought up before is fantastic. That's another azo. So these 2 azos fix nitrogen. They'll pull it out of the air, and through their processes, they break down nitrogen in the atmosphere and fix it to ammonium. Just, they don't need to be touching roots or anything. This microbe can work without symbiotically linking up with, like a lot of things like rhizobium needs symbiosis to function, where azos don't. Pretty rad. What's another one I like? I mentioned Cumulus before, how it puts out cellulase. It also puts out chitinase. So if you've got an insect problem, that would be one to spray, foliar spray. So that's a biopesticide. I could use that as for if I've got problems because of that one enzyme it releases. Or I could use it as a nitrogen fixing bacteria, or salicylic acid to maybe enhance the metabolic secondary metabolite in the plant. So all these different ways you can use microbes to work for you. And these are the ones that I use. Same with Trichoderma, Variety and Hazarium are very common. They're not the ones to use. You want Aspergillium, because Aspergillium puts out 3 types of phytohormones: indole acid, gibberellic acid, and abscisic acid. And also, well, actually the others two puts out fungicide. But that alone is worthwhile sourcing the right microbe in the right genus. So there's the species afterwards, but it's the same genus, but it just does different things. So I've gone and sourced all my microbes, produce phytohormones that I use. Look at them all of them. And you should see the results. What else? Where's my favorite? Pain Bacillus polymixer. Puts out gibberellic acid, indole acetic acid, and cytokinins. 3 massively important phytohormones. And gibberellic acid especially is very, very good for fruit. It swells fruit. That's it. It just swells it. So if I use my few ones with gibberellic acid in fruiting times, my fruit's bigger. It's as simple as it is. They did a good experiment with grapes. They sprayed it, even foliar spray on grapes. And you can see the difference. It's a notable difference. But it's also, polymixer is nitrogen fixing and breaks down phosphorus. It's my favorite. It's rad. And it works in the rhizosphere, or it's an epiphyte. So it's not an endophyte inside, unfortunately, like Gluconosteatobacter gisotrophilis is. So with the endophytes, you know that, cool, that plant material contains possibly these microbes that you've introduced. So that's why you'll put them back through your organic process of cycling into your breaking it down by tilling or by slashing and letting it break down, and it'll have these microbes in it. So it's only a matter of time, and I'm not going to kill them by pesticide, herbicide, any of those store-bought crap. I'm watching my copper inputs, zinc inputs, all that sort of thing that could kill microbes. So they're only going to flourish and thrive. So this is how organics works really, really well. One of them puts out carbonic actually a few of them, carbonic anhydrolase, and that's the carbonic anhydrolase. It's a zinc-containing metalloenzyme that breaks down carbon dioxide. So it's a carbon sequestration microbe. Thuringiensis does it, Megatherium does it. So just those two alone break down. So for those people who are interested in their sustainability and helping the planet, that's just humongous. I tried to explain that even to the Australian government. That'll do. There's a bit of a biofertilizer talk on why they're good and how to use them and how to source them, and they're just brilliant. Oh, Renee's off. Have a good weekend. Thank you. Hope you have a good week, great weekend too. So put your questions through now. Next week. So what do you think, people in chat? Do you like this way I'm going through and showing each week of lectures in certain courses that I've done? Or do you want like a question and answer stream, or what do you like? What's some feedback for that, please? What am I going to share here? Next week's. Microbial technologies. Yes. This semester's classes have started already. Here we go. So we just did this one. Biofertilizers. That should be labeled smart fertilizers, not bio. Smart bioferts. Because I reckon next week is the biofertilizers. Yep. Effects of mulching on soil properties. Oh, wow. That was what I thought was probably today's one. Yields. Oh, gosh. Yeah, next week's on. I'll just cut and paste that, because I reckon this is what we'll be talking about next week. So biofertilizers, biochar, yield, mulching, and nanourea is next week. Probably second important to last week's one, of organic manures. Yeah, look, it goes into mulching here. An effective tool for modifying soil environment. You beauty. Effects of mulching on soil properties. Yeah, can't wait to go on through on that. I look forward to it already. So that's next week. But yeah, what do you reckon? Do you like the way that it's going? Looks like there's not much feedback at the moment. Oh well. Well, that's probably the stream then, eh? Go back to the cricket. So yeah. Put your words in chat if you'd like to say something now, because it's going to be ending, I think. I don't have much more to say today. I haven't really got much links to put in or anything discussed in the description. I look forward to next week's though. More organics. Fantastic. And there's good. There's good profit to be made in organics, believe it or not, because it's a new field in the world, especially in Australia. There's packets of money to be made, but in the world, there's just different things that you can do to get these products out. For instance, like neem pellets. It's similar NPK to chook manure. So chook manure's got 5-2-1. Neem meal has a 5-1.5 and a 2. So you can nearly say it's exactly the same as chook manure. So it's getting it pelletized and right and done properly. You can, really make some money off that. All right, here we go. Genetic Memory Farm says, I always end up calculating carbon nitrogen based on weight and estimation. So I'm curious if there are any method actually measure CN on a small scale. If you get a heap the size of a trailer, a trailer you put behind your car, go off one of them. So for one heap of that, to measure the carbon and nitrogen inputs, green grass or grass you just cut is absolutely spot on. So if you go and cut some grass and put a little heap out, and that's what one looks like, it'll have a good amount of green and a good amount of brown. So it's going to break down at the 1:24 or 1:25 ratio. Well, that's what they reckon is really, really good. So it's amount of browns and greens, really. And I put those charts up at the end of the show last week for that. See if I can put some more up. Well, she said, see, thanks. You dig the format. Well, because we're coming up to the end of the talk for this university course. We're in week 10 next week of week 12. So what should I do next is my question. Do you want me to put up another, before I answer that question, like these are all my courses. So we can go through any one of these, and under them I've got 12 weeks, generally 12 weeks of courses, like nanotechnology in agriculture. Okay, I've summarised it week 1 to 4, week 5 to 8. Just different things like that are related. Organic farming, or actually, this is probably one I should go through, but I haven't put in them weeks. I've just pulled out different slides that I like at different times, and that's how I've done that one. I haven't got every slide. The original organic farming, which was easier, it's just got photos as well. These facts and questions are interesting because you go through these and it has sort of basic questions, and then it's got the basic answers to what the questions is. They don't really elaborate heaps. Like, what's the role of earthworms in vermicastings? What are the characteristics of earthworms? What is humus former and feeder? What environment conditions do earthworms like? How do earthworms reproduce? The teacher of this class was a earthworm biologist. So we learn a lot about worms. But that's just an example. There's a lot of these questions here that are interesting that I could also go through that might help. Biopesticide practices, questions on that, fair income. Let's have a look. Just a quick look. Are botanical pesticides toxic to humans? Wow, they can be. Different with the wrong ones used. How long botanicals can be stored? What is botanical insecticide? Are biopesticides organic? Is it essential to use botanicals by a certified organic farmer? There you go. So that's an example of also different stuff that I've got that we can go through. Have like a bit of a Q&A day. But it's more so what class I want to go through next. Because I don't think the questions is really driving streams anymore. It's quite slow. So yeah, plant pathology and soil health, plant physiology and metabolism. That's very technical. There's a different university did it. Plant development biology. That's technical, but it's also pretty cool to know. Print cell-based processing. That's interesting in the fact that it's tissue culture and it goes in great cell detail on how to manipulate them. Plant biochemistry and plant biotechnology. And there's some few soil classes. There's the environmental ones, which are environmental biotechnology, environmental chemistry and microbiology, environmental soil chemistry. That's really, really interesting. Maybe that one next. Experimental biotechnology, farm machines. Irrigation and drainage was very technical. And what was the other one? Other micro irrigation engineering was pretty cool about drip irrigation. So there you go. There's quite a few classes there that we can go through. That's pretty cool too. What a plant knows. That was at the University of Tel Aviv. That's got some pretty interesting, actually very fascinating, not interesting, slides that are on how does a plant hear? How does it listen? How does it move? Can it feel touch? Has it got a memory? That's that class. That was pretty cool. Anyway, so yeah, I'd like to know what you think. Soil chemistry sounds really interesting. Yes, that's what I reckon too. It is. It gets into a bit too much detail, but what a plant knows. I think that might be the best one because from doing them, the what a plant knows is it's dead set fascinating. You can look at the leaves and go, holy mackerel, when I touch that leaf, a calcium signal has been sent and down chain effects are happening at the moment. It's really cool. Yeah, or how it can listen, how it reacts to heavy bass sounds, how roots travel towards them. It's yeah, right. I like that. What a plant knows. That'll be cool. And I haven't gone through that. I did that course many years ago, so that'll be a good eye opener for me again too. I always end up calculating the CN based on the weight and estimations. You go also on the speed of it. Well, if it breaks down really, really fast and it gets like a slurry mix, it's not good. You want the outcome to be granulated balls of. Where's the picture? Actually, let's see if I should have pictures in mine. My substrates. I don't know what that'd be. There's one picture. No, it's not really the effects of after the composting. All right, I'll just try and put it in the search engine. So, perfect soil collude. Now let's put some images in. There's the kind of image. Good, that'll do. I'll go back and share screen. So with your end result of your compost, you want it to look like this. Instagram. I just want to put a big picture of it. It's probably not even going to work now. Sign in, great. That doesn't, good. So see how that's, the soil is aggregated well enough to be little tiny balls. That's what you want, because the stuff that we're looking at the moment, it's not even, so it hasn't broken down properly. See, there's a big bit of organic matter there and there, so it hasn't broken down evenly. So they could possibly put a bit more to speed that up, or to leave it happen over a longer time. So if you're harvesting this now, you might think it's not quite ready for that reason, but it is blooming ready. It's very nice. I'm just being anally judging on this just to show that what you want. So if I pull it and see how it's very dark, and you want the soil to be of a 20 to 30% when it's stored, the moisture level, where it should be 60 to 80% when it's cycling. So microbes and fungi can do their things, but that's pretty much what you want afterwards. So by guessing your CN ratio, as long as when you're going to harvest, it's going to look like that, you've guessed correctly. And then you'll put it onto plants and you'll think, well, hang on, I'm getting a fast nitrogen deficiency. Or possibly it could have depleted the nitrogen out of it. So that's the nitrate would have leached out, where the ammonium would have stayed in. So you might want to look at putting more ammonium in next time, not nitrate, as an example. So you might want to collect urine, because that's got a good 1.1 is to O is to 1, that'll do, NPK. So you can even cycle yours if it's healthy, or you can cycle farmyard mammals by putting hay underneath where they piss, if they sleep where they sleep at night, as an example. Just, yeah, well, I hope that helps. Just curious if there are any other methods or small scale. Are you still here? I'll go through soil science. I'll quickly show you GMF, the carbon and nitrogen ratio again. I'm not sharing screen yet. Who's in here? Oh, whereabouts in here now? There's one of the slides. I'll start here. So I'm only just going to skim on this, because I've been through this a few recordings ago. The ratio of the carbon to nitrogen is very important, because it's how it cycles. So you want 20 to 30 is to 1 is really good. Ratios out of that, speed it up or slow it down, so they don't favour the proper end result that you require. So nitrogen immobilization, mineralization after material with a high CN ratio is added to it. So that means it's going to break down fast. So after time, it goes too fast, and then all of the available nitrogen's lost, because it's too high of a carbon to nitrogen ratio. So nitrogen's metabolized by microbes and volatilized off, and the processes happen too quickly, with nitrogen ending up as the result you don't want. Here's a 25 to 1 mature hay, alfalfa. Different ratios, 15 to 1 microbe biomass, 10 to 1. See it down the bottom, fast decomposition, slow decomposition, because it's too much brown, fast, too much green. So that's the level you want. That's probably something you could print out, mate, if you're going into that much detail with your weighing it of it. that might suit you to have that on the wall so you get to know it. And then you're going to want different ratios of material, like sawdust, corn stover. What ratio is that when it's dried? What ratio is dried alfalfa? Microbes for organize. Is that it? Yeah, good. There's a little skim on for you. So there's the slides you might want to read. Transformation of organic nitrogen. Yes, that'll do. That helped you. Righto. So soon, looks like we're going to be going through what a plant knows. It'll be fun. But for the point in today, we're only going to go next week into finishing up all this course. So that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for everybody putting their input in. And if you have questions, put them in the chat below and I'll answer them through the week. Or you can save them for the stream next week when I'll be here doing the same thing again. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you have a lovely day or night. Happy breeding, happy growing, and good health to you all. Bye-bye.